Martindale lies to the south of Ullswater in the Eastern Lake District. It's only accessible by a long road along the side of the lake from Pooley Bridge. This remote parish is made up of a handful of farms and cottages scattered along the vales. It's likely that there's been a place of worship here since the 8th century, but the first record of a church here is in the early 13th century. St Martin's has been replaced by a new church which opened in 1882, and I'll be looking at that one in the next video. But the old church is still open and has a very rich history. The present building dates back to the late 16th century and was built on the site of a medieval structure. Evidence of the old building can be seen at the base of the south wall. At that time, Martindale was a chapelry to nearby Barton Church. In 1633, Martindale became a parish in its own right. The pulpit in the church dates from around this time. On the front is carved the date 1635, while on the side is fixed a small panel with the date 1634 and initials for John Dawes, who paid for it. It was originally part of a two-decker pulpit. There was a gallery for musicians at the west end, and seating is believed to have been box pews. The altar table in the sanctuary has the date 1674 carved into the decoration on the top. Extensive work was carried out in 1714, commemorated by a date stone in the north wall to the side of one of the windows. Its position seems to make it likely that some of the windows were repaired or replaced at this time. Next to this window is a curious section of mismatched stone, which looks like it may have been a door. The porch was probably added at this time, as a description of 1688 clearly states that the church was then without a porch. Inside, stone flagging was installed on the floor. Up till then, it would have been bare earth. The church did not fare well over the next century. When Chancellor Fletcher visited in 1815, he described the church as being in so bad a state that he thought rebuilding it might be the cheapest option. If not, then at least the roof, the porch, the west end, the floor, seats and windows should be repaired. When he visited again in 1831, he found it greatly improved. Around 30 years later, it was decided to replace St Martin's with a new church, a short distance away on the crest of the Hawes. On Friday the 6th of January 1882, St Peter's was consecrated. There were fierce storms that day, and so, on the same day the new church came into service, the roof of the old church collapsed. This was not too great a surprise, as the old roof must have been in a terrible state. The previous September, it had been decided necessary to replace the roof as part of the changes to bring the old church into its new role. It was to be used going forward as a mortuary chapel for burials. The new roof was added and the minstrel gallery removed at the west end. New window frames and glazing were installed. The seats were arranged to lie lengthways along the church as they are now. These seats are believed to have been previously adapted from box pews to open benches. The two-decker pulpit was converted into the reading desk that now serves as a pulpit. Also, wooden screens were put up in the porch to form a vestry and storage space. The harmonium in the church bears a brass plaque to Lucy Rose Jones, June 15th, 1898. The wooden cross and candlesticks were given in 1961 in memory of the Reverend Joseph Ridley and his wife. He'd been vicar here from 1891 to 1895. They were made by his daughter's husband. The most interesting feature inside the church is the font, found on the north side of the sanctuary. It came from the ridge of High Street and is believed to have originally been a wayside shrine from the 3rd or 4th century. For many years it was used to sharpen blades before coming into use inside the church, first as a holy water stoop and then as a font. In the bell cut at the west end of the building is a small bell that's around 500 years old. It bears an inscription that has so far defeated experts. At the northeast corner of the church is an ancient yew tree. It's been certified as at least 1,300 years old, and so it's likely that there's been a place of worship here for all that time. Under its protective canopy is the grave of George Woodley, curate here in the 19th century. He died, aged 60, in 1846, on Christmas Day. By a curious coincidence, there's another memorial in this churchyard to a vicar who died on Christmas Day a century and a half earlier. Richard Burkitt was the first vicar here in 1633, and he served until he died in 1699, aged 94. His very worn gravestone sits at the southeast corner of the church. This old church is still used for a handful of services each year. In the next video, I'll be taking a look at its replacement, St. Peter's.